to breaking into repairs and high margin services. I am Niki Acosta. I'm your hostess, and I am very, very lucky today to be joined by some amazing panelists. But before I introduce them, here's my obligatory about Skimmer slide. We are here to help you build a great business. And the way that we do that is through amazing software that helps you stay organized, that helps you hold your teams accountable, that provides communication to your customers, and through content like this. We have a fantastic webinar program, and we've been very, very lucky to be joined by some really awesome industry experts. And we've got a few of those experts here with us today. I'm going to let Eric introduce Jared and Jared introduce Eric after Joe introduces himself. So Joe, you're up.
Hi everyone, I'm Joe Shiraz. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Skimmer. I'm new to Skimmer, been here only about 2 months, but not new to home services. I started in lawn care. I did online marketing and business consulting for pool companies, maid, pest, lawn. I was in Service Masters First Technology Accelerator. So everything home services and technology, that's kind of my domain of expertise.
Well, stand by for lowered expectations. I'm here to introduce my former co-host of the Rule Your Pool podcast, Jared Morgan. Now, I worked for Jared at Orenda since 2016, but Jared's background prior to Orenda is actually service and running a repair business. They got out of service, went straight to repairs. So he's really involved with understanding the financials of it, knowing how to price services, making sure that you're amortizing the cost of your vehicle and all these things correctly. And I'm sure you'll fall asleep during his segment, but he is actually qualified for this. So take it away, Jared.
And I'll introduce Eric there, who was my confidant for many years at Orenda and HASA, and he likes to moonlight as a podcast host in his free time. But he is a self-proclaimed chemical specialist, and now he is head of Watershape University. So he's bringing education to our industry in great ways, and let's hope he can bring some education to this podcast today. So no promises.
It's a webinar. Niki corrected me. This is not a podcast. This is a webinar.
It is a
See?
webinar.
Yep.
That's why I can't be the host.
Yep.
It's
You never
a
will be.
webinar with podcast-ish styling. So
That's right.
all right. So what are we going to talk about today? First, we're going to talk about the opportunity that lies ahead if you're looking to break into other services. We're going to talk to Eric about evolving from service to specialization. We'll go over some pricing strategies from Jared and how to handle objections. And then we're very excited to show you a couple new features, one that's already launched and another one that's about to launch to help you win more deals. And then we will follow that with a Q&A pending time. So let's talk about the opportunity here. Last year, we did our State of Pool Service survey, and we asked folks, what other lines of business are you getting into, or do you want to get into? And 55% of you said repairs, 42% of you said renovations. So obviously there is a desire, I think, by a lot of you in our audience to try to augment or evolve past just service into higher dollar repairs and renovation work. And it is a really good time to do that. Why? Because the average age of a residential pool in the US is around 22 years. And Eric made a joke.
Yeah, they can legally drink now. So
there you go.
You got that going for them.
So pool pumps, they last, if you're lucky, 8 to 12 years. They can be a lot shorter depending on factors. Structural shells of a concrete pool are estimated to last about 50 years, but the plastered surfaces typically need refinishing every 10 years. For vinyl lined in-ground pools, liner replacement, I've heard everything from 4 years to 12 years, depending on conditions and your LSI balance. And then when we asked folks about their gross profits, I did a poll. I called a couple of pros ranging from one poolers all the way up to, very, very, very large franchises. And I asked, like, what are your gross profits per service? And it ranged the gamut from 15% to 40%. But when I asked about repairs, most of them said it's somewhere between 30 and 60%. So obviously these are an area or an opportunity for you to make more money. Jared, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, there's I want everybody, which we'll touch base on a little later in the webinar, that there's a big difference between gross profits and net profits, which at the end of the day, everybody should really care about net profits because that's what we all get to take home and work with. But gross profits are kind of misleading, as gross profit is literally your revenue minus your cost of goods sold. So, and that makes sense. If you're in the repair business, you got higher ticket items, more revenue. Your cost of goods are going to be higher though, so there's a trade-off there, and there's more markup. You can mark up a pump and a heater and a filter, whereas when you're marking up a service, it's a little more challenging. So these numbers make sense, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty later.
I'm asleep already. Let's keep moving.
Perfect.
And right on cue, Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about service to specialization.
All right. So this beautiful AI image that I generated in 9 seconds is an amazing testimony of what is coming. If you are not aware, AI is a thing and it is not going away. And from a lot of the pros that I've spoken with, they're starting to notice a few things. Homeowners are using AI to try to do their own repairs because they have this newfound sense of confidence because they could just type it into ChatGPT and figure out how to troubleshoot a heater. Now, not every homeowner is going to do this, but more and more are doing these things. The DIY enthusiast, as prices rise, not only what you need to buy in distribution, but what the homeowner is paying for, whether they're at a retail store or Home Depot or whatever. A lot more people are thinking, oh, maybe I should DIY this pool. There's about 10 million backyard pools in America. Less than 35% of them are serviced by professionals. Most of them are already DIY. Now, if you think about that, that is a massive opportunity, not necessarily for weekly service, but for repairing the things that they're not qualified to do. They aren't electricians for the most part. They're not necessarily comfortable replacing a pump or a filter. So those opportunities are limitless, basically, if you know how to look for them and if you know how to specialize. I have a brother-in-law who's a shoulder surgeon. Makes me feel inferior every day just thinking about it. But I asked him, well, okay, so you're an orthopedic surgeon. Why not just be an orthopedic surgeon? Do knees, ankles, all that stuff. He said, because specialists make a lot more money, but more importantly, there's very few of them. So most people that stay generalists, they get overworked, they get exhausted, and they have to punt on the hard things anyway because they don't quite have that specialty skill to handle it. So he opted for just shoulders and elbows, and he does very well for himself. Now, that's in the medical field, but we know a lot of customers, Jared and I, in the past 9 years and ongoing, speaking with them about how they have specialized and made the entire career that they had completely change. And we're talking about reversing their fortunes. They were doing monotonous work, cleaning pools every day, 10 plus pools a day. It's exhausting. It's monotonous, but they wanted more. And if you knew how much opportunity was out there, you would want to go for it too. So let's talk about this concept of a commodity. A commodity, we'll stay on this slide, don't jump to the next one. A commodity is what you want to avoid being. Okay, so I want you to think about what is your product. And the thing that you do that the customer recognizes is not the product, okay? Because the person down the road or other people in this webinar that may be in your area, they can also do those things. Pool cleaning, chemistry, adding chemicals each week, testing water, right, troubleshooting a heater, whatever it is. A lot of people can do that. So that's the commodity. The product that you actually sell is your unique way of doing business. It's everything that remains. It's the difference makers. It's the communication. It's the relationships that you build with a customer. It's the little things like sweeping the deck if there's a bunch of leaves getting near you. And I've had pool pros tell me, well, that's not my job. And as soon as I start doing the gardener's job, I don't get paid for it. It sets a bad precedent. Okay, well, you're going to lose to the person who is going to go that extra step eventually. And by the way, getting back to the AI conversation, if you haven't already noticed, AI is displacing thousands upon thousands of jobs already. It's going to be hundreds of thousands to millions. Where are those skilled people going to go? I can think of over a dozen that have already come into the pool business and they're killing it because they don't come in with the same preconceived notions. They didn't start in this industry. One example is a guy that used to work for Apple. I won't say his name, but he used to be a software developer for Apple. He wanted to build a pool. They got out of California. He saw the AI wave coming. He's like, I think my whole division's probably going to get cut by this. So he cashed in his stock and moved. Comes to North Carolina, starts building a pool, and he's asking, because he's an engineer, he's asking questions that the pool contractor couldn't answer. It's like, wow. So he asked another company. They couldn't answer him either. He finally finds a company that does it right. They are more money, but he realized there's not a lot of those companies. He has started building pools, and he's killing it. He knew nothing about building pools, but he understood that the bar was low. I know him through Watershape University because he's educating. He's saying, I want to be good at this. He recognized a gap in the market and said, If people aren't willing to do it right, I am, and they come in eager to learn. Get sharp and stay sharp, because you either adapt or you're going to get displaced yourself. It's not a threat, it's reality. It happens in any revolution of technology. The Industrial Revolution put millions out of work temporarily, and they got repositioned in factories and all these other things. The tractor, how many people got replaced by the tractor in farming? Think about all the technological revolutions we've had. AI is just doing it on a much bigger scale, much faster, and we are often not ready for it, but you have to be adaptable. So that means you need to learn skills. You need to find ways to do things that AI will not do. AI can do a lot of stuff. It's more likely to replace me and Jared than it is to replace you if you're the one installing the heater and troubleshooting it. Because AI can do a lot of things, but it's not going to net a pool. It's not going to install equipment. It's not going to lay plumbing. Okay, we still need skilled trades to do that. So how are you going to separate yourself? Next slide. If you are just doing what everyone else is doing and you're just offering a canned service, you're a commodity. I hate to say it, but you're a commodity, because the only thing that differentiates you at that point is price. That's really the definition of a commodity. We think of commodities like gasoline or milk or something like that, where you could go to any grocery store, you could buy milk from any brand and it's milk. You could buy gasoline from any gas station and it's gasoline. It's price. Price is the only differentiating factor, and convenience, right? Um, but your product is how you position your brand promise. And more importantly than that, it's how you deliver that brand promise consistently enough to build trust, so that even if you're not on the job or you're not in that living room trying to sell the repair or the pool renovation or whatever you're doing, how do you make sure that your company delivers the brand promise when you're not there?
Trust
That's
is
hard to do.
everything.
Trust is everything. Next slide.
Well, on that commodity part too, just real quick, trust is everything, and it's how you present yourself, like Eric's saying, how do you communicate, but it's also how do you look? Do you look like a professional? Are you wearing a
Mm-hmm.
uniform, or are you dressed appropriately? Do you walk into their backyard and they say, that guy knows what he's doing, and I trust that guy, because that's who they're going to go with. And I think that it's extremely important to be branded, and not just as a company, but obviously for yourself. So
Yeah,
continue on.
that's true. And Niki, you were at our event in Hawaii where you took the class Business 3123. I have this 4-hour class in Watershape University that actually stemmed out of a class that I taught at the Western show last year, that was all about your brand promise. It was all about how do you build systems and standardize things so that you can build a great business where you focus on the strategic work instead of the tactical work. And the tactical work is the phone calls, the driving, going to distribution, cleaning things up, purchasing products, throwing trash away. All that stuff takes time, and we all have the same amount of time. We don't have the same amount of experience. We don't have the same amount of talent. We don't have the same amount of focus, and most importantly, discipline. You have to be disciplined if you're going to get ahead. Look at this slide right here. Nothing against these people, but perhaps they probably use the same ad agency. But how am I, as a homeowner, supposed to tell the difference in a magazine if I see all 4 of these? That's a commodity. They're focused on the end product. I don't know who the best company is, but look how similar they look. That's the problem that we're trying to get over. And in order to get out of this commodity mindset, we have to identify our brand promise, and we have to build systems that make sure that everyone else in our company and everyone else around us understands and delivers that brand promise. And do that, you have to separate yourself from the tactical work so that you can focus on the strategic work. Next slide. So tactical work is the day-to-day. It's the grind. It's the physical stuff that you have to do. Now, most of us are technicians in general. Even I'm a technician. Even when I'm recording a podcast and editing it, that's technician work. I could potentially outsource that, but I don't. But the point is, like, that takes a lot of my time. Other people could do that, but I like to keep control over that one thing. But I can delegate other things. Whereas a strategist, the strategy is thinking long term. It's not doing the day-to-day everything now. It's, why am I doing this right now? What am I working toward? How do I position myself and my company and my brand to be at an advantage in the future? And so it's kind of like the general is the strategist, and the corporals and the NCOs and the lower ranking officers are the ones in the field actually executing the strategy. So too many of us stay on the wrong side of this line all the time. We never actually free ourselves up to do the strategic work. And by the way, this applies to one pollers just like it applies to people running businesses with 30 trucks. It is no different. Human nature does not change, it just scales. And you can build systems as you scale. For instance, if you have more than one person in your company, try doing this. I'm going to challenge you to this. Over the next week, see if you can, and shouldn't cost you a penny to do this, see if you can get your trucks as identical as possible in terms of configuration, items in it, organization, all that stuff. And then when people come into the job in the morning, they don't know what truck they're going to take that day. Can you do that in your business? Can you have people show up and they are handed a key to a truck and they're not sure it was the one they used yesterday and they could still do the job the exact same way? If you can't do that in your business, strive for something like that. That's a really good barometer of someone who is thinking strategically versus tactically. Because if you got a bunch of people wearing the same shirt, hopefully they're even doing that, but they're just kind of doing their own thing. Jared does it his way, Joe does it his way, and Niki does it her way. That's not a company. That's not a brand promise. That's a bunch of people that are hopefully wearing the same shirt, but that's not a brand. You have to have systems in place. You have to have a way of doing business. And that, in fact, is your product. So let's keep going. Now, like I said, the tactical work is the grind. For builders, that's labor, proposals, site visits, payroll, taxes, accounting, all that stuff. But for service and repair, which I presume most of this webinar audience is going to be service and repair, do these things look familiar? Going to distribution, purchasing supplies, repairing, replacing equipment, administrative work, billing. A lot of these things, these administrative things have been taken over by something like Skimmer, which can help you out and automate it, which is part of the reason why Jared and I are here. We are not in the software game, although we did create the Orenda app. We didn't want to get into that area. We want customers using software because it frees you up. It frees your time. And the expectation is that you take that time rather than just squandering it on Facebook, but to think strategically. Where do you want your career to go? It's up to you. It's there for you to grab it. This is a trade that does not have the respect that I believe it deserves because partially we don't have enough of a expectation in this industry for that discipline and that drive to make this an incredibly desirable industry. It's hard to find people. It's hard to recruit people to this industry because they see pool cleaners. But think about all the other trades. If I see someone welding, I can recognize, oh, I don't know how to do that. I would hire someone to do that. If I see an electrician doing major wires, shit, I could die. I don't want to do that. I'm going to hire that, right? Well, I could clean a pool. How hard could it be? That's all they see. So if you could separate yourself and introduce, there is a high skill level required to do this. You have to have electrical acumen. You have to be a plumber to some degree. You have to understand a lot more than a typical specialist would be. But in our industry, there are specialties you can focus on. Next slide. You can start developing standard operating procedures. You can start forecasting. You can start refining your habits and processes that everybody needs to follow. And when you do this, I know it takes time to do it now, but it takes a lot more skill and experience to do this part than it does to do the tactical work. Because if I can build a checklist of 12 items to do a certain thing, I can hire anybody who's never done it and they could follow that, especially if I teach them once to follow the checklist and show them what each step means. I've just replaced myself and now I'm freed to do other things. So be thinking strategically. And by the way, this is just, as Niki knows, this is just a dusting of that class in Watershape. If you want to take it, we'll have it online probably in a couple months.
What is the
But
name
let's
of
keep
that
moving.
class? We had a question in chat.
It's Business 3123, documenting and standardizing business operations. And it is going to be a mandatory part of our service track if you're going to go for the Watershape service certification, but it's going to be online. You can watch it. It's not online yet, but it will be probably in the next few months. I spoke ahead, but the last one here, perhaps the most important thing. If you are pursuing mastery, you could spend decades of your life trying to do it and never get there. Because people who spend all their time focused on learning the tricks of the trade never master the trade. Find a mentor. Find someone who's learned these hard lessons for you and bounce off of them. Iron will sharpen iron. You need a cohort of people around you who have your back, who want you to succeed, and are willing to share the wisdom that they earned the hard way because they don't want to see you go through it. So That's what we do at Watershape. That's basically the whole thing. We want to build that network of people that have this experience. But let's keep moving.
I'll also say that this takes time. This isn't something that just happens overnight. You have to dedicate yourself to being better and
Right.
educating yourself. And people talk to myself and they talk to Eric because we've answered a lot of the same phone calls, same people.
Thousands of them.
They think we're chemists. Boy, did we do a good job of tricking them because neither one of us are chemists. I'm a pool guy. Eric's a
Mhm.
swimmer. And when you read enough books and enough material over years and years and years, you're just confident in your ability to talk to somebody else. This is selling. If a customer calls me who has a backyard pool, and if I get into that backyard, there's a very high chance that that customer is coming on my service because I'm confident in my ability to not only talk to them, but I know what I'm talking about. I know the water chemistry, I know the
Yeah.
equipment, and that's going to come across. Same thing with Eric. So when you devote the time, you will have good outcome.
Yeah,
So
and there's a difference between faking it. Yeah, like I was not a pool service pro, but I will tell you, and I've told customers this before, if I was a service pro, I would probably dominate in my market. Not because I'm good at being a service pro, but because I know how to learn, I know where to look for. I know like all the problems that people called us with were pretty much just troubleshooting things, chemistry issues and all that stuff. So I didn't have a lot of experience of the good parts. Nobody showed me their good pools, but I knew what to avoid. And when I learned all the things to avoid, it forced me to learn the best practices. And that's what we share with you on the podcast and here. So if you are willing to learn, you got to be eager for that. And if you are, you're going to find, next slide, that you can specialize because there are riches in the niches. That is a fact because very few people can do certain things. And by the way, if you want to be the best in something in the world, the way you attain mastery is not trying to be the best at one thing in the world. Good luck. If you're going to be better in golf than Scotty Scheffler or Tiger Woods, okay, that's who you're up against. Good luck. But could you be the best pool service pro in your area that also knows how to do leak detections and tile repair? Could you amalgamate a bunch of skills together to deliver one brand promise that is unique from everyone else around you? And I'm going to give you some examples in here of some pros that I know. I don't know if they're on here. They may be on here. Some pros that I know that have completely changed their lives. They've changed their careers because they decided to specialize. They recognized an opportunity by talking to people around them. They decided to learn something that very few people were willing to learn. Very few people were willing to go that extra mile and attain mastery. They've done it and they've changed their lives. Their income is completely different. And now it's really hard for them to, what's the word I'm looking for? They're turning down work because it's really hard to displace them because there's so few people that can compete with them in that one little niche. Jared, did you have something to say?
for those of you that do leak detections, kudos, because that is an extremely difficult, laborious, time-consuming
Mhm.
task that is very niche. And I know I've talked to Nikki about this, but at our company, yeah, the repair company we have, we've been stuck on leaks for weeks at a time. And there's no set amount of time, set amount of anything when it comes to basically seek and find. And that's what we're doing with leaks. And you have specialized equipment. Sometimes it's cold. We're getting into wintertime. Water is going to be about 40 degrees. You got wetsuits. You have a lot of stuff that goes into these niches. So if you're going to get into a niche, just make sure you do your homework and plan accordingly.
And,
Yeah,
and
like me personally, prior to coming to Orenda, I've been doing air quality evaluations on natatoriums. Jared knows this. Why can I do that? Well, because I intimately understand pool chemistry and how swimming pools are now I'm learning how they're constructed too, but how they're operated. I understand the water side really, really well. But that's not my first language. My first language is actually HVAC because that was my first job. So I can speak to HVAC engineers and architects. I can understand airflow rates and evaporation rates and vapor pressure and all these things that have to do with air that have nothing to do with water until you put a pool in a room. And so that mastery that I've earned over, oh gosh, 13 years of doing this now, I don't know anyone else who does those two things. They're so different, but I've brought them together. And that niche that I've carved out is something that's very needed by certain people, which takes me to my next thought. Next slide. Don't follow your passion. You need to follow opportunities. So many of us, oh, yeah, I really like, you know, insert hobby here. Well, that's great. But if the market doesn't care, you're wasting your time. If it's going to be a livelihood decision, right? Like if you're trying to make a living on it, the market has to demand it. So um, if you find something that the customers want, or your subs want, or the pool builders want, or whatever it is, ask them, find out. It has to be relevant to the marketplace. The passion will follow. Trust me, when you get good at something and people want you, it's in demand, you get that oxytocin hit, you get that dopamine for putting in the work. It's a really good brain chemistry that you get going, and you are motivated. You are motivated to get better and pursue mastery. And that's what we want to help you do. Next slide. How do you find them? Well, you ask your customers, you ask the subs, you ask the pool builders, you ask the manufacturers, you ask the reps, you ask the counter guys at distribution. It's not hard to find what's weak in your area. What is
And if,
lacking in your market? Yes,
and
Niki.
if you're part of a UPA chapter, I know Steve Homer's on, or an IPSA chapter, I've definitely seen, you know, chats that come across, and it's like, who is the leak detection guy? Who is the tile guy? Who
Sure.
can repair coping? Like those are all opportunities. If your IPSA chapter or UPA chapter is, if they're asking each other where to find this, then that means there's probably a demand for it.
Well, yeah, but there is a demand. In fact, I'm going to give you an example. There's a class that we're going to be offering through Watershape at the Western Show in Long Beach. I don't know how many of you go to that show, but next slide. This man, Jeff Hampy, is going to be teaching it. And Jeff Hampy is a guy who did pool service for over 25 years and got inspired at a tile class that he took. And he's like, man, there's not a lot of people doing tile in my area. And he decided to try it. He liked it. It was hard work, but he recognized, man, if I put in my effort here, I'm going to get good at this. In fact, I'm going to be the best tiler in the state of Florida. And he has worked very hard for the past 10 years, getting better and better. This is one of his pools. He's doing entire pools in glass tile now. He's doing mosaics. He's doing extremely hard stuff. And there's only about a dozen people in the country that can operate at this level. That's incredible. That's incredible. He completely changed his life by specializing in that. And that's a really hard trade. I'm not saying you want to go into tile. If you want to, you're welcome to take the tile school in Phoenix, which is December 5th and 6th, education vacation. But Jeff will be there. It's taught by Jimmy Reed. But Jeff's going to be teaching a class of how to specialize. How do you go from service pro to a specialist? He's going to be teaching that in Long Beach. Hear from this guy himself. He travels the country doing high-end renovations, multiple six-figure renovations. You can too. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but you have to find something that people want. He recognized it was hard to find a tile guy. He started asking around, who are they? He wasn't really impressed with their work. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but like generally, he recognized there's a gap here. People want this. There's not a lot of people willing to put in the effort and the training and the years and the hard work to do it well. I'm going to do that. And it's amazing, his story. So I'm very proud to have him teaching some of our classes, but this is a great example of somebody who found a niche and decided to attain mastery in that niche. But you don't have to do that. You could do something as simple as Joe Mishik in Phoenix. And by the way, Joe Mishik is the very first Skimmer customer, Niki. I don't know if you knew that. He's number one back before you all came in and bought the company. And I know Joe very well. And Joe was one of the first people that adopted our startup. The reason I'm sharing this is because Joe used to have to service over 70 pools a week in Phoenix. That's hard. That's exhausting work. And he adopted the startup and he got really good at it. In fact, he bought 2 barrels. And shortly thereafter, about a month later, because he got in with all these high-end pool builders who didn't want to do the startup themselves, it's hot, it's hard work, they don't know chemistry. He bought 2 more barrels. And at one point, I remember him calling me and he was going to pick up 1 barrel to take it to another one to set it up for the day, like the following day startup. And then he was going to go pick up another one. He was cycling through these barrels. He was doing nothing but startups for like 5 months because he was just overwhelmed with the amount of work that he was getting from these high-end pool builders. But what did that translate to? That translated to him being able to take those really high-end pool customers on service. He did the startup. Back then, I won't
But he did
share
not do
numbers.
the startup for free, did he?
No, no. Well, he started and he had to learn how to price it, but a startup's over $1,500 from him now, and they build it. The pool builder builds it into their price.
Every time we've not done startups for free, and people, and it's common for
Yeah.
service maintenance companies to do the startups for free to hopefully get the customer on service. But what I would recommend is if you value your service and your expertise, you have to charge for it. And if a builder has to price that into their price to the consumer or the homeowner, so be it. The builder will pay you, but you still need to charge for your services, because if
Hmm.
you're an expert and you're doing it the right way, the last thing you want to do is have this mentality in your head that I'm doing this for free and therefore I'm going to cut a corner. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to do this or that. When in reality, just charge a fair price, get your
Hmm.
money, and be proud to be in that backyard and do the proper startup. So
Yeah,
it
back
is
it up.
another business.
And
Yeah,
by the
back
way,
it up.
if y'all see Joe Mishik and you use our Lamont integration, Joe was instrumental in helping us get that right to make sure that it also feeds into the Orenda calculator. So if you see Joe, you can thank him for his help.
Yeah. Well, the point is, Joe changed his fortunes. He has a lot less pools now because he doesn't need to, and he's tripled the average monthly rate because he changed his clientele. That's amazing. What a great story. We're all getting older. So by finding a specialty, he completely changed the direction of his business, and I encourage you to think about doing the same. Finally, now I actually don't have permission to use this one because we added it moments ago, but JMax Plumbing is a great example of this. Imagine going from basic repairs to plumbing pools like this. Now, this rough plumbing is on a $2 million backyard. You don't just get that work by accident. And for those of you who lay plumbing, how many of you can do it like that consistently? That clearly is mastery. That's someone who has devoted and poured themselves to being the best they can be in their craft. And I strongly recommend, whether it's plumbing or tile or leak detection or hardscapes or whatever it is, learn a new skill, find out what's missing in your marketplace, and devote yourself to attaining mastery in that. And whatever you're trying to attain mastery in this industry, we're here to help you. That's
And I
all for
saw
me. I
I
think we're
saw
passing on to Jared.
one of the attendees here who does leak detections. This is beauty right here. Because if you've done a leak detection and a leak repair and you've dug down into a pipe stack that's a foot wide with 10 or 12 pipes inside of it and the leak's on the bottom one, absolute disaster. This right
Hmm.
here, just an absolute masterpiece. So
Hmm.
kudos.
Yep.
Richard in chat, he said, I love to do tiles or building, but as a pool pro, how do we get licensed when there's a strict licensing such as California's? For example, I'd love to possibly quit the service to go work for a contractor for the journeyman experience. What do I do?
Email me, ek@watershape.org. There are certifications. There's a path. We can get you in touch with a mentor. We have an entire tile school. We can get you into that certification track and get you into that licensing program. So that's ek@watershape.org.
Great.
You
All
could
right.
just put it in the chat, Eric. Okay.
No, I'm not. Jared, I'm not going to do that. We haven't done a
Too much
podcast in
fun.
months. This is what we get. But yeah, this is a great slide. I didn't make this slide, but this is great ideas of things that you can do. Like, okay, we've already talked about leak detection, but liner replacements. We actually have a class at the Northeast Show introducing a new type of liner that's a reinforced PVC membrane, which is coming to the United States. It's very popular in Europe. That's something that nobody in your market is doing yet because it just came here. It's brand new. You could learn that skill at the Northeast Show, and they will show you how to do it. It involves heat welding and cutting, and it's very precise, and it's beautiful. It's a really high quality product. Maybe that's something you could do and offer in your market that nobody else has. But yeah, cleanings, basically the hard work that you know people are going to need. Can you get really, really good at that? So,
Well,
and other things that don't necessarily have to do with pools. I have
not
a
just
company.
pools.
Mhm.
The one thing I will make sure that everybody understands here is if you're going to go into one of these things or whatever else it is you decide, do the homework. Like I said, when you
Mhm.
leak detections, I've just been hammering on that one. There's a lot of equipment and it's expensive and upkeep and so forth on these specialized areas. But the bigger thing is whenever you go down this path, make sure your insurance provider covers this area which you're participating in. Because I know, like for us, as an example, we cannot do renovations. Our insurance company does not cover renovations and so forth. So therefore, that would be a problem. I would need to either find a new insurance provider and or not do renovations. We just don't do it because it's a pain. But talk to your insurance provider, make sure you're covered, make sure you're heading down the same path, and do your homework or due diligence to get into these other areas.
And it's
Right.
not just about the services that you can offer, but it's how you package the services and sell those services that can matter too. So, for example, you'll see on here specialized short term rental plans. Those are very difficult to manage if you don't have the expertise. But if you have the expertise and you have the bandwidth to service short-term rentals, you can create a customized plan specifically for that market that speaks to the concerns and the careabouts for people who either property manage or own short-term rentals. You can do tiered plans, a good, better, best. We have quite a few customers that do concierge services. So someone calls them, it's a celebrity's pool. They will go out, they will put out the chairs, they will wash the decks, they will put out the cushions, they will fill up all of the pool toys. Like there are options and there are services that if you have the right way of packaging them and delivering them and marketing them, you will find demand for these types of services out there.
You know what I don't see on here? And this, I'll end on this so that Jared can have some time here. I don't see pool inspections.
Oh,
We have an
good
entire pool inspection class and certification, and you could be charging $600-700 a pop and doing 4 a day. Every time a house with a pool goes on the market, it has to get inspected. Home inspectors aren't doing that.
They're not. And
You sell yourself to homeowners.
There
Yeah,
are real estate agent groups in every city on Facebook with thousands and thousands and thousands of people in them that would make that
absolutely.
really, really easy to market if you can get into one of those.
We do real estate inspections all the time, and we charge more for them than just a normal service call because they do consume more time.
Oh, but beyond
if you're
that,
doing it right.
how about a real estate cleanup? You get a real estate agent and say, "Hey, well, I'm trying to sell this house. The lady's getting elderly, and the kids just want to sell their parents' home. This pool looks like crap. Can we get an uplift? Let's get a facelift on this pool real quick."
Yeah. Well, it's a negotiating tool for a buyer. Like, hey,
Sure.
and we need to, how much is a new pump? This looks bad, or I need to replace this, that, and the other. And we give them a rough price. And so they can use that in their negotiations, and it's worth its weight in gold. So whatever you're charging, understand that it's value. You're creating value for whoever's paying for the service.
Matthew
Well, I
Reynolds
encourage
says
all of you.
he's sitting in the driveway of a pool inspection right now. Props to you, Matthew. Thank you for
Nice.
for joining us. And someone else just left another one. How do I take that pool inspection course? Eric, we need to drop your email address in here.
Yeah.
And
EK and
Emily,
oh my
seasonal
gosh, yeah.
work, snow shoveling, totally, right? Like power washing, light installation, gutter cleaning. It's going to be different in different markets in different areas of the country, but there's always opportunities.
When
if you
Jared
can market
is
them.
busy putting you all to sleep, I'm going to put a link in the chat so you can see all the courses. So
And then pool startups, right? Especially if you follow the Orenda procedure, like what an amazing way to make sure that plaster doesn't get borked, right? Like that is an area of specialty that is much needed in a lot of markets.
You have to know how to sell that service though, because if I'm a service guy, which I was, it is a little more work on the front end. It's less work on the back end, but on the front end, it is more work, more coordination. But if you can go to a homeowner and say, you have a X amount of dollar investment in your backyard, do you want it to look better 10 years from now instead of 5 years from now and so forth? Because I can come in here, I can make sure the proper startup is done. I can check your tap water, make sure the chemistry is properly balanced on fill, and all these things build up. And when I go into a backyard and speak like that, the homeowner's like, oh yeah, you're right. I just spent $200,000 on this thing. I want to make sure it lasts forever. And the cost is minimal. I mean, at the end of the day.
Same go ahead.
I'm going to end on this just because I know Jared needs time.
He's been saying this for 10 minutes, y'all.
You keep feeding me more information. So I am very encouraged by you taking this webinar today. And I'm very encouraged when I see people take classes because most of the industry does not do that. And this is an opportunity for you to separate yourself further. And I strongly encourage you. You only get out of this industry what you put into it. And if you are willing to put in that extra effort to focus on something and find what your market needs, I want you to succeed. I want you to make more money this upcoming year than you ever have. Construction this year, new pool construction was down more than 50% in our industry year over year. And you know what it was last year? Down almost 40% from the year prior. This is the COVID hangover. But historically, when that happens, service and repair go up, renovations go up. And this is your time. Niki said, these pools are old enough to buy alcohol now. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. I'm done. I'm going to shut up.
Beverly just said, how do you justify startup packages when brushing doesn't take long? And that is the problem in the industry.
We love you, Beverly.
There's more to a startup than just brushing in the pool. If I'm checking the water chemistry every time I'm there, if I'm doing a 7-day startup or a month-long startup, number one, that's a lot of trips. But number two, I'm making sure that chemistry is balanced proper enough so that the concrete or the plaster or whatever surface you have, it's still the same. It's a surface, is not going to be etched or scaled or whatever it may be during the cure process and the cure time. You're throwing brand new water in there. It is your job as an expert to balance that and make sure that it is properly done so that transitioning from maybe they don't want to go on your service. So be it. That's fine. Transitioning forward, you've done your job to ensure that that surface has the best chance to survive the way it was meant to. If you just go in there and dump a bunch of acid in there and you brush it or you try to get in and out of the backyard in 10 minutes, yeah, that's probably not going to turn out very well. It's done, don't get me wrong, but it's it's a trap.
And Mike, I just saw your question in Q&A. When will this webinar be available to listen to again? If you have to bounce, go ahead and bounce. Everyone who registered for this webinar will get the recording tomorrow, and it'll be on YouTube. All right, moving on. Pricing and selling services. We'll have to slightly breeze through this section, but
We will. So
yes.
this is a very touchy subject. Obviously, every market is different. So I'm in North Dallas, just so you know that. And Florida is very different from California and the Northeast. I mean, it's wild how much variance there is in these. But the one thing that you need to understand, and as I touched in before, there's gross profit, which is your revenue minus your cost of goods sold. And then you get into your net profit, which is really at the end of the day what we should all care about, because your net profit is how much money do you get to take home and is your business profitable? And things that you need to consider whenever you're pricing repairs out are you have fixed expenses and then you have variable expenses. Your fixed expenses is your overhead. That's your rent, your car payments, your insurance, your property taxes, whether it be on your inventory or if you own a building, it's a property tax. It's your phone, it's your salaries that you pay salaried employees. All these things are fixed for that year, right? Well, what I would recommend you do is number one, make sure you have good record keeping. If you don't use a service software like Skimmer has this, you can load in costs, you can build out these templates. QuickBooks Online, I know there's integration there, but you should get as much detail and as much information in there as possible so that you can have an idea of what your overhead is, because that's going to be a percentage of your revenue. What I always do at the end of every year is I take the previous year's revenue total. I add the expenses up. It's a percentage of revenue. I'm making this number up. So let's just say it's 25%. 25% of my revenue is going to be fixed overhead. So I'm going to make sure at a minimum, when I price repairs out and I'm buying a pump, a heater, a filter, whatever it may be, that I'm accounting for that 25% that does not go away. And then you have your variable or your variable expenses, which is your gas, your cost of goods, your, whatever you do in advertising and so forth. That can be added onto that. And that's a sliding scale because you can always scale up or down how much you spend on advertising or whether you're buying pumps because the pump or the filter or the heater is tied to how many jobs you do. So that's a variable. That's where you get into markup. When I mark up a job, that's the variable expense. So and everybody's percentage or formula or whatever that is different. If you want to have more conversation about it, we can do that on another podcast another time, but I'm happy to have this conversation because I think it is important that we all properly charge the right amount in your market to ensure that we're all making money because everybody wants to make money, and that you don't look up at the end of the year and you don't have any revenue or you don't have any net profit or it's negative because a lot of times it can be negative. And then you're in this scramble mode of what do I do? I have taxes to pay. I have all these other things that are unaccounted for. And at the end of the day, that's not good because that lowers the value of the service in the overall market. We all need to understand that we are here to prop up this market, value our services, and get a fair price for doing those repairs and or maintenance items. Our company, in North Dallas, we do the cost times markup plus the labor and the additional cost associated with it. And I was talking to Niki before. There's a lot of miscellaneous things that come up whenever you, let's say, price a heater repair, for example. You have the cost of the heater. That's easy to understand. Now you understand, include your taxes. You pay tax on these items if you're set up a certain way in distribution. But then you get into PVC pipe, you get into fittings, you get into couplings, you get into all these random things that just kind of add up and you don't really think about it. I did quick math. And if we install a heater and I'm doing, a few 90s, I'm doing a few couplers and some pipe and glue, you're at like $65 in miscellaneous parts, including tax. That needs to be accounted for. you get your cost of the heater itself plus whatever markup you want to make. And I know I talked to Nikki about it before. The markup is a lot harder these days than it was, say, 10 years ago. The internet has changed the game. We can all either complain about it or we can understand that it's something that we have to kind of combat and manage. We we try to make a fair price on our equipment markup. And if a customer, which I think we can go to the next page, Nikki.
And I'm glad we are, because Teresa just asked, what do you do about price comparison when the customer is looking at Amazon?
Perfect.
Number one thing we hear for sure these
Yeah.
days.
And at the end of the day, I understand that. And trust me, we get this a lot. And a lot of times when a customer says, well, I can get this for whatever, $200 online. A lot of times that's less expensive than I pay for it at distribution, it's frustrating. There's a lot of reasons, I don't understand. But that's the reality that I have to work with. And I'll tell them that, say, hey, that's lower than my cost. And at the end of the day, you have to be able to combat that with the fact that number one, you're providing a service that's not free. Number two, you're going to go pick it up from distribution. You're going to go handle the warranty. You're going to go turnkey this thing from start to finish. And that's part of you as being the professional. And at the same time, if they still complain about it, say fine, give them a labor only price. Say you can order it online, I'll install it. But me as the installer, I'm going to account for that in the price that I charge them for installing it. So let's just say, for example, where a customer wants me to put in a pump, I'm going to charge them like $300-$400 to put in that pump, even though my total for putting in that pump would have been like 1,100. I'm making these numbers up, but I'm going to get my money somewhere in this transaction. And then at the same time, I'm not going to cover the warranty on that pump they ordered from Amazon because I didn't buy it. And that's a very upfront conversation. I think everything requires an upfront conversation with your customers, because if you tell them something's going to happen or it could potentially happen, and you come back to them after the fact and say, yeah, I warned you about this, well, they don't really have a leg to stand on. But if you do not warn them about these things after the fact, now that's going to land on you, and that's where trust is broken. So communication is key. The objections here, you could try to offer other solutions here, and everybody's in a different circumstance or situation. As far as their financial situation, a lot of retirees on fixed income, they got to repair. It's tough. We have to be able to account for that, but at the same time, I cannot compromise my service and what I'm offering to accommodate somebody else's situation, because at the end of the day, I'm going to own it. If I install a, crappy pump because I'm saving them $200 and that pump breaks down and then I can't get warranty, repair and service and backing, now I'm the bad guy because I put in something that shouldn't have gone in there.
1 second, Jared. To expand upon that and listen closely, if you are thinking about getting into major renovations, more than just like new tile, new plaster kind of thing, if you're thinking about modifying pools and major renovations and hardscapes, the last person to touch that project owns it. Everything under the ground, even if you had nothing to do with the plumbing under the ground and there's a leak later, that's on you. So you have to make sure that you have it in your contract language. We go through all this in our major renovations class, but it's one of those eye-opening things that a lot of people don't account for, and it can absolutely break you, because renovations are harder than new construction. You don't know what's there. You don't know what's under that ground. So it's a much higher risk, but there's a way to do it, and people have to pay for that quality. So make sure you are not
don't compromise.
Yeah,
don't compromise your
don't
service.
compromise.
Speaking of not compromising, you may not have to compromise anymore. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to let Joe.
And this is awesome. I just learned
This
about this, an hour ago, which is great for slow
We're-
pace. So
we're
everybody
super,
listen.
super
What else is
excited
awesome
about
is
this.
I stayed awake during Jared's entire thing, and that's literally the first time that's ever happened on a webinar. So thank you, Jared, for being fast.
Yeah,
Joe,
no,
go.
these topics lead into a great new feature that Skimmer is going to be announcing. And real quick in the chat, just put a $ if you had a customer that asked about a payment plan or asked about any kind of financing. I'd love to see. Yeah, the $ are rolling in. So, we're excited to announce consumer financing. We'll be launching that later this year. And just some real quick stats. I don't know if you knew, but half of high earners use consumer financing or buy now, pay later programs. Almost a quarter of people making over 200K push out repairs or descope major repairs due to cost. So consumer financing is really a must for pool pros. It gives your customers options. It gives them flexibility. If you have to do a pool pump repair and an automation system for 6K, they can split it up into payments. You get paid instantly. You don't take on the risk, and it's really just a huge benefit to both your customers and to you as well.
And Joe, when does this launch?
We're looking to launch this later this year. So by the end of the year, we'll have consumer financing integrated into the Skimmer platform with pre-approvals and a bunch of really cool features. So keep your eyes out for that.
And you have to be using Skimmer's payment platform in order to take advantage of this, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So yes, the buy now, pay later, similar to like if you go online and it's a Klarna or an Affirm, that will now be something that you can offer to your clients out in the field,
So does
especially
this remove
great.
the risk for the service pro?
It does
Yeah.
because we are going to pay the pro immediately and then
So the
take the
slow
time to
pays and the no
collect.
pays, or are they're the financier's problem now?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep. And this should give all of you a way to differentiate yourself from your competition, especially if people are price shopping. You know, if they're price shopping, it's because they probably got a price that was too high. There are very few people that are going to be able to offer this and in a quick and easy and fast solution right out of the box. Speaking of, we also recently, if you haven't been paying attention, launched some other features that are really designed towards helping you win these bigger repair deals. First, we launched quotes. So we've got the ability to not only send a quote, but take a deposit or take payment information at time of quote approval. You can also attach images, videos, PDFs to that quote. So if you want to put a manufacturer brochure, if you want to record that horrific noise coming from the backyard to help you seal the deal, you can do that. And you can get your customer approval online and then convert it to a job. Now, Jobs is new, and you can think of jobs if you're already using Skimmer as a collection of work orders that starts with a quote. So previously in Skimmer, it was a little bit challenging to try to use work orders to manage more complex jobs that might happen over the course of a few days, i.e., your CYA drains, your pool pool startups, your acid washes, your pool openings or pool closings. Now you have the ability to manage that all under one sort of package, all in one folder, and be able to manage that throughout the process. When you're done, it automatically goes to an invoice. All of your deposits are applied, and you can track your deposits, invoices, and payments and send those out throughout the job. So it's just a much, much better way to handle these more complex jobs. It's really easy to use. If you have any questions about how to use quotes and jobs, we will have additional resources available. We just had a workshop yesterday, but we'll have additional resources posted to the pool deck to be able to show you how to use and manage that. And I was at a roadshow all throughout the month of October, and folks are pretty excited about this, especially those of you who are doing light renovations or multi-day jobs. All right, and with that, our State of Pool Service survey is open until November 14th. I will be straight up and honest with you. We have about 1,100 people that have completed the survey. We'd love to get 2,500. And by participating at the end, there's an optional entry for any one of these great prizes. We've got a $500 Heritage gift card. We've got Skimmer swag packs. We've got a Primate 3X pull. This is the new generation pull with the new handle and the new locks. That's super sweet. We've got a Riptide with a cart and 2 bags that will be shipped to you, or a Lamont Spin Touch, which since our integration, those have been in quite high demand. So if you get a chance, please take the time. We love your feedback. We want to know what it is that you care about. And of course, we will publish all of this data in our 2026 State of Pool Service report coming out in January. And by the way,
I
this
would
is
I would love to
this
contribute to that as well if possible, because every year I look forward to reading this survey and the results because it is awesome. I mean, I
it
love
is
reading the information.
it is the largest and most comprehensive survey and report for the pool service and repair industry. So do your part, let your voice be heard, and take the survey and get a chance to win one of these great prizes. So it is 2:57. We've got time for a couple questions. So if you have any questions, will you have a rollout of templates to share with customers to give them for the pay late, buy now, pay later? Yes, we
Yes.
will. Absolutely. Those are already being prepped as we speak. Any other questions here Oh, I'm still waiting for billing on the phone app. Richard, you'll be very happy to know that we will have quotes on mobile and accepting payments on mobile in Q4. Don't hold me to that if it slips to Q1 in January, but it should be Q4. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming in addition to that. We just launched surcharging as well. So if you are in a state where credit card surcharging is available, we now have the option to tack that on in a compliant way that won't put you at risk.
And Jared, here we are getting all excited that it could record chemistry history for a customer. We're all stoked about that. That's why we integrated. But now you're doing financing and all this other fancy stuff.
We just launched a bunch
awesome.
of new reports, tons of new reporting with really cool features to be able to search by customer, search by tech, a lot more filter capabilities and deliverable reports too. You can set yourself up to deliver your reports on a regular basis. That being said, those reports are only as accurate as the information you put in on the front end, including your product cost, what you're charging for those products, labor rates, et cetera. So take the time to do that as well. We do have a Heritage integration coming soon that will integrate Heritage's catalog inside of Skimmer. Can we send the link to the survey again? Joe, can you find the link to that survey? I want to say it's www.getskimmer.com/state of pool service. Is that right?
Let me get that real quick.
And Brian, we hear you integrating for a way to ask for customer reviews. We are entertaining some partners in order to be able to provide that as a service.
Chancey or Chauncey, good
Oh, you
catch.
want
This
the-
is Nikki's birthday, by the way.
Oh, that's
Everybody
right.
needs to make sure they tell
Oh,
Nikki
stop.
happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you. You guys are too kind. It is my birthday that I share with if you didn't know, I have an identical twin sister.
Look, 23 is a big one, Nikki.
I have an identical twin brother as well, but it's not my birthday.
But
Oh.
you are right on the cusp of being the same age as all of these pools across the country. Really good.
Cool. I can drink after this webinar.
I'm surprised we're not drinking right now.
It's so sweet. Financing, is that through the normal payment process in Skimmer or with a third party? We do have a partner that we've partnered with to be able to deliver that service. And so it won't be something that that you need to know or care about, but we do have a partner that will be handling the processes involved in it's not a hard credit check. I think it's a soft credit check. Don't quote me on that, but it's an instant approval for those who apply or want to.
We
do the
actually did this
handoff.
within an hour, Nikki. I'm very impressed.
I'm super impressed too. It doesn't happen very often. I've been doing Orenda startups for 2 years now. I use a Lamont Spin Touch for my testing. I think all these features have me sold on switching to Skimmer from Ion. Yes, Robbie, bring it on. Thank you. We have put a lot of work into integrations and we're only getting started. And so thank you for recognizing this. And look, we always learn from our partners too. Eric and Jared were instrumental in getting the Orenda calculator into the Skimmer platform. And now that works with the Lamont. So we are definitely evolving, but we'd love to have you as a customer. I missed the workshop yesterday due to rescheduling. Is there a link for that? Sherry, unfortunately, those workshops as of today are not recorded, but we are working on the same content in a recorded format to be able to share. So check the pool deck.getskimmer.com for that information. It should be up in the next few days. Thanks, Jessica. You're the best too. And so, yeah, thank you all for taking the time to attend this webinar. And thank you, Eric and Jared, for spending your time to build this content and deliver it. I will be at the Education Vacation in Phoenix with Eric in early December. And there are some really great service classes. Plus, he's got somehow managed to get all of the manufacturers together in a room to deliver. I mean, he's got Poolside Tech, Jandy Pentair,
Raypack,
Aquastar,
yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
They've all said, I can't believe I'm in this meeting, but this is awesome. They've all said they've never actually worked together to teach a brand neutral, fair and balanced class. And it's roughly 2 hours each of pumps, filters, heating, and automation. It's an 8-hour class. That and the 8-hour chemistry class the day before are the foundation for our new chemistry certification pathway. And part of the reason we created that, Nikki, as we've discussed, is it's really hard to recruit into this industry. We're not as attractive as electricians and plumbers and HVAC as a business. And I want to change that. That's why I went to Watershape. I love Orenda. There's nothing wrong with Orenda. Well, Jared, he's a little different, but I saw a big gap that went way beyond pool chemistry. And if we want to be taken seriously as a trade, we have to show young people that are coming into this industry. Well, it's not even young people, just new people. We have to show them a path that they can see themselves in a meaningful career that matters, that they're going to be able to get to a level that they're going to be proud of and live the lifestyle they want to live. And that opportunity is in this industry. You just have to know what to look for, and you have to be willing to gain the skills to get there. And whatever you want to attain in this business, whatever mastery you want to pursue, we have your back. So thanks for being there, Niki. And I'm still trying to persuade Jared there, but Jared never returns my calls. He's always way nicer to me when we're on camera, but
I try to be. I'm not going to be in Phoenix, unfortunately, but
yeah, see, there you go.
I know it's going to be a great course.
He's already decided he's not in the mood, everybody. But Phoenix is going to be great. We also have our 3-day construction school. We've got our 2-day electrical school. If you do electrical work, this is not a typical seminar. This is 16 hours of mastering electrical pads, from starting with the electron all the way up to doing pretty complicated stuff. But we would love to have you there. We've already sold out the entire hotel, which is incredible. It's going to be
I haven't booked mine yet.
Well, you're going to have to book
Dang
across the street, because we sold out an entire embassy suites, which is amazing. But you can do that at watershape.org/events. You'll find the education vacation. Book now before they fill up. But we hope to see you there. And it's all for you guys anyway. It's entirely to uplift the industry. And we're not trying to take just the cream of the crop students and make them the best of the best. No, we want to uplift everybody to a point where you can have a really meaningful career. And, it's up to you. You're not under any pressure to do it. But if you want to learn at that next level, we got your back.
Thank you again, Eric, Jared. We will send these slides out. We will send the link out to the State of Pool Service Survey, as well as some information about the Watershape University classes and the recording. So stay tuned for that. It should be in your inbox tomorrow. And if you ever have an idea for a webinar, let me know. Reply to that email and just let me know. We'd love to hear it.
Thank you so much for having us, Niki.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.